Nigel, good morning. Thanks for joining me.
Good morning.
Morning. Before we get into anything overly structured, I'd like to start. Here. When did aluminium stop being just a material in your working life and start feeling like a real responsibility?
Oh, blimey. It's hard because I've worked with aluminium most of my career in one way or another, and it was, as you quite rightly say, it was just a material that we used because it was light and easy to move around site, and you could manipulate it. Um, I don't think it was until it was probably 5 years ago, 5, 6 years ago, that you really started to acknowledge that this was a product that was, we had to think about and recycle, and it started becoming part of the sustainability message, and it started becoming a key factor in winning projects. You're using a product that is sustainable. So I would say about 5 years ago, but I'm getting older, so my time is foreshortening. So it could be 7, 8 years ago.
All right, well, let's take it back a tiny bit further than that. If we go right back, you've worked across systems companies, and now you lead a trade body representing a whole sector. What first pulled you into this world?
I started off in contract architecture and then contracting, and I always jest with people that the first manuals I had next to my drawing board was a Cornea black book, British Gypsum white and red books, and a Conda steel yellow book, and that's what we designed sheds with. So I've been dealing with aluminium from that perspective from day one. I then went into overcladding, specialist overcladding market, and then systems, as you quite rightly say, and then into specialist facade subcontracting, so whole envelope, back into windows. The reason I got into windows in the first place, or fenestration and facades, was because the punch hole windows always seemed to be in the wrong place, and I had to keep cutting in my reveals on every overcladding job I did, and I wanted to understand why. So I started working for Reynolds, and then I haven't been able to get out since.
So, what kept you here rather than moving on to something else?
People, the diversity of the projects, being involved in, some really sort of standard office blocks, right up to some really interesting unitized facades, and the challenges, continual change in regulation and legislation. No two jobs were the same. So, and even if they were a copycat from a project perspective in delivery, they weren't. There's always a different challenge, and that just keeps you interested. And as I said, the people, we've got a great bunch of people in our industry.
And moving into, you're now heading up CAB. What surprised you most about your transition?
Um, the depth we go into that no one sees behind the scenes for legislation and regulation. It's the depth we go into, and the length of time it takes to get that regulation through. And the frustrating thing for me when I came in was, why are we reacting to a piece of legislation rather than being involved in writing that legislation, which is something, since getting Dale on board, we've managed to reposition ourselves, because we're the sector organisation for curtain walling. We've managed to position ourselves in front of that, and we're now involved in writing new regulations before they come out for consultation. So it's quite an exciting place to be now.
Your career has gone from commercial roles to representing this entire industry. What do you miss from those days in the commercial world, or what don't you miss at all?
Miss that buzz of getting a big order. Working through something from, talking to the specifiers, understanding what they want, designing a solution that works within the cost parameters and the design parameters, and that buzz when you finally get the order, right through to seeing the final project delivered on site. I do miss that.
Is there anything you underestimated about representing an entire industry rather than just one organisation?
Um, Not really, because I've been involved with CAB for a while behind the scenes, as a board director. Um, I think my frustration was more we could have done more for the industry. And I think we're now starting to do that, and we're starting to put our head much more above the parapet, have our voices heard, and have our members' voices heard. It's a big responsibility because you are sometimes making decisions, for a whole sector. However, now we've changed our technical committee structure, so we have working groups. So if there's something that's pertinent to a certain part of our industry, we can focus on that, talk to the guys, and get their feedback before we go out to industry.
Yeah. So I mean, aluminium's got a real role in facades. And it's everywhere. It's yeah. I think it's often taken for granted. I mean, from your perspective, where does aluminium still not really get the credit it deserves?
It's an interesting one because most membership organisations are very very focused. So GGF, Glass and Glazing Federation, roofing contractors, MCRMA. So you've got the Metal Cladding and Roofing Association. Whereas we are council for aluminium in building. So that covers the whole envelope. It can cover street furniture, cover modern art. It covers everything.
Mm,
And you're seeing aluminium being used more and more. The trouble we've got now is getting people to understand that we need that aluminium back at end of life.
mm,
Urban mining is becoming a big thing.
mm,
And when you look back at projects like Wembley, when new Wembley was built, there was over 200 tons of aluminium extracted out of the old stadium,
mm,
and we're going back a long time ago.
mm.
And so aluminium that was initially put into construction 100 years ago, some of it is still in use, and it is still as good as it ever was.
Is there a side of the industry that really needs to challenge itself more honestly then?
I think we, as an industry, we need to really grasp the sustainability side of it, and we run a closed loop recycling scheme, which we have a lot of engagement with. The struggle is to get main contractors to understand the importance of that
Mm,
and give us access to people like demolition contractors who are dealing with a lot of that material and are just pushing it back into their normal streams of recycling.
right.
That doesn't necessarily mean it's going into the right silos for the right types of alloy,
Mm.
so we can put that back into windows and doors
So,
or panels.
in reality, you're dealing with a lot of regulations and standards. I'd like to go a little bit deeper into that from your position. What generally keeps you awake at night?
For, as most of us after Grenfell, um, competence is, the understanding of competence. I think everyone bans the term around, but people don't understand that competence isn't just about a man on site. Competence is about design. It's about the sales process, the manufacturing process, the installation process, and the deconstruction. So it's getting that over, and we're working closely with the JCI, with Nev Grunwald,
Hmm.
to try and raise that again, and make sure that competence is something that's looked at as an holistic item. So we're working closely at the moment with the GGF, JCI, GQA, and CSCS in putting a pathway together that covers all of the roles.
Mm.
And so if you're doing fenestration work, your cards and your qualifications can lead into curtain walling, which obviously is a totally different skill set. And trying to make sure that all works together instead of 4 or 5 organisations going off in different directions.
Okay. I mean, is there a place where regulation is getting quietly in the way as well as helping the industry?
No, I think it's starting to really listen. More importantly, it's listening to industry. And now with the Construction Product Regulator coming on board as well, that's going to make a difference.
Right.
So we're going to see products from beginning to end of their life cycle being looked at. And in construction, there's been some elements that haven't been looked at. So, in other industries, we interrogate every single part. In construction, if you look at facades, one of my frustrations is if you go to you're having an extension put on the back of your house, you get a builder to do it for you. He gets a plumber to put all the plumbing in because it needs to be certified. He gets an electrician in to do all the electrician wiring because that needs to be certified. But he'll chuck the windows in himself. Now, depending on what product that is, whether it's timber, PVC, or aluminium, that needs to be in a different position in the construction. And that goes all the way through from your extension all the way up through to a major build. Okay. That needs to be regulated.
Yeah, I mean, is that something that the industry may say it wants, but is it willing to invest in it?
We're trying to, but it's a big education piece, and that's where we're all coming together to actually look at how do we educate, how do we get that message across. It's a big message, and it's got to be one that's joined up.
I'd like to talk about CAB as a community, beyond the logo. In your view, what does good membership really look like?
An interesting one. The good membership is people that get involved. We have massive involvement from our members in our working groups. They really capture what they're about, and it's like any membership, isn't it? It's like, a gym membership. Everyone's joined the gym in January. They're all keen, and then they sort of back off. Membership of our sort of body is exactly the same, where you need to engage, and the more you engage, the more you get out of it. And I think that, yes, there is still an element of networking. Our events are for networking. They are for people to get to know people up and down the supply chain. But it's also about making sure that we're all pushing in the same direction. I mean, there's probably one theme for me in this conversation is, everyone coming together and doing the right thing together.
Yeah, I mean, on that sort of theme, where could the industry do more together if egos were removed?
Yeah. We've got a problem at the minute in the industry where Gateway 2 has really blocked the project pipeline. And we can all sit back and see what's going to happen when the floodgates open. Everyone's going to be racing to the bottom to get to win the work, and then worry about how they're going to deliver it. I think we've got to be stronger as an industry to say no. This is a very technical, very risk-based part of the industry. You pay for that. We've seen a massive loss over the last few years of some really good facade companies. And I think as an industry, we need to stand up and try and help that so it doesn't happen anymore. We're rapidly losing skills.
Does that come down to better collaboration then?
Yes, I think so. And I think the good thing about the Building Safety Act is the art of the specification should be coming back. So a good specification, a good tender pack, pre-construction, working with a main contractor to win a project, then not going back out to tender to get a cheaper price. So being able to have that all secured, the subcontractor knows that he's got a robust bid, he's got a good price, hopefully, and the main contractor knows he's got someone that can deliver that project. And I think that's one benefit we're going to get. But we need people to maintain that and understand that that's a key part of project delivery.
You touched on losing skills. I mean, talent comes up in almost every conversation I have at the moment. What worries you most about the future skills and the pipeline?
The biggest problem is the more legislation and regulation we put in, especially around competence, the more people that have been in the industry 20, 30 years are going to go, oh, I don't need to do this. I'll go and do something else. And we've seen it. It's and one of the key things we're trying to do is make that easier. And when I say easier, I mean from a demonstrating competence easier. If you're doing CPDs, if you're continuous at having toolbox talks, demonstrate that, and then we can try and get the main contractors and the legislators to recognise that as a demonstration of competence.
Mm.
If we constantly challenge people and ask them to get qualifications and pay for courses and do this, you're just going to lose people.
I mean, losing people and attracting the younger people. Where do we still fail to explain to the younger people about this industry?
We've spoken a lot to build our skills with Mark on this, and a number of other training organisations. We're the start of the exercise is when a child goes home from school and says, "I want to get into the building game," and the parents go, "Oh, no, yeah, you want another trade? You want to get into something where you're going to make money?" I think what we've lost when I never went to university, I went to a technical college, and that technical college was a 4-year course. You came out of it as a professional without a degree after your name.
Like an apprenticeship almost.
Yeah, effectively, yeah. You did it part time, and you learned a lot, and you came out a really rounded individual afterwards. Schools are pushing too many people through the degree mode, and you must go to university. You must go to university, and whether that's how they get all their decent scores as a school. And I think trade colleges, skills colleges, need to be recognised for what they are,
Right.
which is as important as universities.
Mm.
And I think you go anywhere else around the world, and skilled people in construction are really valued.
Mm.
They're taken as professionals in their own right. In the UK, we tend to have a different view of that,
But
and that's where it needs to change.
could employers take more responsibility rather than expecting the colleges or the trade bodies to fix it?
I think you look around our industry. I think we're all trying to. We speak to our members. They've got apprenticeships available. But you go to a school careers fair. Yeah, and there's all these sexy IT things going on, and other things, and you try explaining to a 15, 16-year-old person who's just looking at leaving school or going into sixth form that our industry is no different to anyone else in that room. I've joked a number of times, our industry is no different to building a Lamborghini. Building a window is the same as a Lamborghini. You've got product designers, you've got accountants, you've got marketing, you've got social media, you've got everything.
Mm.
It's just the end product's slightly different.
Mm. Okay, so looking ahead is what gives you genuine optimism.
I think people are actually talking about it, and companies are actually doing something about it. Jessica's looked at doing a toolbox, apprenticeship toolbox, to try and link our members with schools through Mark Handley at Build Our Skills, so that we can start that conversation and get people excited about our industry.
Okay, that sounds like a great idea. But when you look forward to the next sort of 5 to 10 years, where do you think the industry needs to be better?
I'll get hung if I answer that one. I think we just need to do things better. We need to talk more positively about what we're doing, become a little bit more professional, all the way through the levels from fenestration all the way through to a full envelope, and be proud of what we do. We got some fantastic people in this industry, and we do some fantastic projects and some amazing products. And we need to be able to stand up proud and be able to say, look, join us. This is what we're about. And as unfortunate and horrible that Grenfell was, it has opened people's eyes. It has put facades squarely in the national press.
Mm.
And I think we are doing something about it.
Okay.
And that for me in 10 years' time, I'd love to see people coming into our industry, wanting to be part of the facade industry, not falling into it.
Are the standards out there lagging behind on what's actually happening on projects currently?
Yeah, I think the question's been asked. I think the yeah, and the beauty of this is because it's such a national inquiry that every level of construction is listening to it, is looking at it. Okay, we may have made a mistake in the way we did the BSR, but that's been rectified. And I think everyone now is asking for the right documentation. They are challenging instead of just taking it for granted that a manufacturer or supplier is doing the right thing.
Okay. So in that sense, where do you think the industry needs to be a little bit braver going forwards?
I think we need to be braver in basically saying what we do is a very professional service, and not be afraid to charge for that. It is the only part you see of a building is the facade.
Yes.
Yeah. Even if you're sat inside, you're still looking out of a pane of glass.
Mm.
I always joke that when I was at De Koning,
Mm.
you could do anything with an aluminium frame, but when you're in the residential marketplace, the only thing you interact with on that window is the handle.
Mm.
That's the most important thing to the homeowner.
Very true. Okay. Well, look, I mean, we've covered quite a few topics in a short period of time. I'd just like to ask a few fast questions, maybe a little bit more on a personal level. What decision or what one decision you wish you'd made earlier in your career?
To specialise on facades
Okay.
rather than looking at I was doing main construction and so on. I wish I'd really focused on facades earlier, because it was still a black art many years ago.
Mhm. Never been heard it be called that before, but yeah, a black
I
art.
remember I remember explaining a rain screen cladding system to someone 35 years ago,
Right.
and then not understanding why the joints weren't sealed.
On a
And
rain screen cladding, yeah.
yeah, yeah. So,
Okay, what's the best advice you've ever been given?
ooh, don't stop trying. Um, I remember an old sales director saying to me, "Just keep going, just keep knocking, and it'll come to you." And I think resilience, especially in construction, resilience is the one thing. If you learn early, you'll be successful in this industry.
It's good advice. But is there one habit that keeps you grounded?
Habit, grounded. Not really. Maintaining a happy family life is a habit that keeps me grounded. To be honest, that's why we work. That's why we do what we do. Is to maintain a happy home. So that, and whenever I walk through that door, I'm not CEO anymore. My wife is. So
Absolutely.
that keeps me grounded.
Okay. What's the one misconception people have about your role?
It's a pipe and slippers and a semi-retirement, and which is what I thought when I first looked at it. It's definitely not.
Okay.
It's exciting, but I think a number of my members and also friends that I've had through the years in the industry who are members said, "Wow, you could have knocked me over with a feather when it was announced that you were taking over." But I'm one of them, so I get it, and I think we have, as a team, we've changed what cab's about. So I don't think that's the conception anymore.
Okay. If someone in the industry is listening to this, what's the one thing you'd want them to take away?
The key thing for me is um, don't be afraid of proving your competence. You are competent, otherwise you wouldn't be in the industry. Just understand how you can demonstrate that, and you will help the industry as a whole. I think it's everyone runs from competence, or not everyone, but it's a bit of a scary subject,
Yeah.
but it doesn't need to be.
Mhm.
And just embrace it and understand it, and you'll go far.
Okay, good advice. But, Nigel, I really appreciated your openness today. Uh, Thanks again for your time. I think we've covered quite a lot.
No, it's been good. It's enjoyable. Thanks for the time.